Chances are you already know what your weak spots are. The question is whether you're checking in on them often enough to keep them from running your week. Welcome to the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. I'm your host, Chris LeBrun, helping you achieve your goals in every area of life so you can dream big, plan smart, and live fully. Here's something I've noticed about the people who consistently make progress toward their goals and the ones who don't. It's not that the successful ones never have bad weeks. They do. It's not that they never get distracted or fall off plan or let something slip. That happens to everyone. And the difference is how quickly they catch it, how fast they course correct before a bad week becomes a bad month, becomes a bad quarter, becomes a pattern they can't remember starting. The tool that makes that possible is surprisingly simple, and it takes about less than 10 minutes. Once a week, I do mine on Sundays. I sit down and I ask myself three questions. What went well this week? What didn't go the way I wanted? And what is one thing I want to do differently next week? That's the whole review. Three questions, less than 10 minutes, done. Now, I want to draw your attention to something about that last question because I chose the wording very deliberately. I didn't ask what went wrong, and that distinction matters more than it might seem. Here's the thing. By the time you sit down for your weekly review, you have probably already gone over what went wrong approximately 147 times in your own head, right? You don't need to dwell on it again. What you need is to take that thing, whatever it is, and turn it into a forward-facing action. Not a judgment, not a verdict, but a direction. So instead of sitting with the negative, I acknowledge it and I immediately convert it. What went wrong becomes what I want to do differently next week. Same information, completely different energy. You're not beating yourself up, you're setting yourself up for a better attempt. And then instead of lingering on what didn't work, I anchor back to gratitude. What went well? What can I genuinely feel good about from this week? That question is not a participation trophy. It's a recalibration. It keeps your mindset oriented towards progress rather than problems, which matters enormously for how you show up the following week. Now, let me be honest about what I'm actually looking at when I do my own review. I know myself well enough to know where my week is most likely going to go sideways. I'm really good at planning. I'm good at prioritizing. I know what needs to get done and I know what order to do it in. What gets me is distraction. If I let myself get pulled off course, whether it's by an unexpected request, by going down a rabbit hole, or by the gravitational pull of low stakes tasks that feel productive but really aren't, my whole week can quietly unravel before I've noticed it happening. So time management is almost always what I'm looking at most closely during my review. Not because it's a new discovery. I know it's my weak spot. But knowing your weak spot and actively monitoring it are two different things. The weekly review keeps me honest about which one I'm actually doing. I do my weekly review right before my Sunday strategy session, where I plan out my upcoming week. And together they take maybe 25 minutes, 30 at the most. Review first, then plan. And that sequence matters because what you learn in the review should directly inform how you set up the week ahead. You catch the pattern and then you design around it. Now, if you want a copy of my Sunday strategy worksheet and guide, the exact framework that I use to plan my week, you can get it for free when you sign up for my weekly newsletter at mysundaystrategy.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. But even before you get to the planning piece, start with the review. Just the 3 questions, 10 minutes, once a week. Here's why it works when nothing else seems to stay. You're not trying to overhaul your entire approach. You're just looking back far enough to see what's working and what isn't, before the patterns have time to solidify into something harder to change. So this Sunday, before you put your plan together for the week, before you check your email, before your week gets its hands on you, sit down with those 3 questions. What went well? What didn't go the way I wanted? And what is one thing I'm going to do differently? Write the answers down, even just one sentence each. Then let those answers shape how you build the week ahead. I want to talk about regret today, not the kind that comes from something you did, although I've got plenty of those from my college years. And no, I'm not sharing details. Just thank goodness there was no YouTube or social media back then. No, I'm talking about a different kind of regret, the kind that comes from what you didn't do. Here's where all of this started for me. I don't even remember where I first heard it, but somewhere along the line, I came across the idea that Jeff Bezos uses something called a regret minimization framework. Regret minimization framework. Now, let me be clear. I'm not sitting here as a Bezos fan. There's a lot about how he's built his empire that I don't really love, but this particular idea, I think there's real gold in it. And the gist is very simple. When he's facing a big decision, he tries to picture himself years down the road looking back and asking which choice he'll regret less. I've been sitting with that idea and I keep landing on the same thought. Most of us aren't losing sleep over the risks we took. We're losing sleep over the ones we didn't take or the things that we didn't do. Maybe it's the friend who's clearly hurting and you meant to reach out and you told yourself you'd do it tomorrow. Maybe it's your spouse or your kids and you realize you've been in the room but you're not really there. Maybe it's that coworker, the one who just keeps getting under your skin, and instead of handling it with grace, you're short with them. And now that sits with you too. Or maybe it's something bigger. The goal you keep saying you'll get serious about next month, next quarter, next year. None of those regrets show up loud. They're quiet. They show up at 11 o'clock at night when you're laying there just replaying the day. And if you don't deal with them, they don't stay small. They start to eat away at your confidence. They make you second guess your own instincts. And eventually, they get in the way of the exact thing this podcast is built around: dreaming big, planning smart, and living fully. It's hard to do any of those 3 things when regret's got a hand on your shoulder. So let me tell you a quick story, because this one still is a little embarrassing. Not a college story, but not long after I started doing productivity coaching, a friend of mine from the fundraising world, someone who'd known me for years, asked me about all the stuff that she was seeing suddenly on my LinkedIn page. It was the coaching posts, the planner, all of it. And she asked me pretty simply, what's all this about? And I froze. I still had a foot in imposter syndrome about even calling myself a productivity coach. And instead of answering with any kind of confidence, I fumbled through this half apologetic non-answer. It was horrible. I didn't mention holistic productivity. I didn't mention the planner. I didn't mention the coaching. I just sort of shrugged my way through and quickly changed the subject. And afterward, almost immediately, it bugged me. Not because I'd said something wrong, but because I'd missed the chance to say something right. I had a real opportunity to talk about what I was passionate about, what I was building, and I let it slide because I hadn't decided in advance what I wanted to actually say. So I fixed that. I sat down and I figured out what my answer would be, a real ready-made response for the next time someone asked. And I practiced it, not so I'd sound rehearsed, but so I could say it steady, even while some of that imposter syndrome was still hanging around in the background. And now, when somebody asks what I do, I tell them clearly. No apology in my voice. That's a regret I don't carry anymore because I did something about it. That's really what regret minimization comes down to. Closing the gap between the moment and the response you wish you'd given. So here are 3 simple ways to do that starting today. First, run a 60-second gut check at the end of each day. Not when you're going to sleep, but before you close things out. Ask yourself this one question. Is there anything from today I already know that I wished I'd done? Not a to-do list review, just a gut check. Most of the time, the answer will surface fast because you already know. Second, keep what I'd call a not today list. This is not your task list. It's the one thing you're secretly avoiding. The call you keep pushing off, the conversation you keep delaying. Write it down and give yourself permission to do just that one thing before anything else on your list. Third, prepare your ready-made response before you need it, for whatever it is. If there's a moment you know is coming, a hard conversation, a question you dread, a situation where you tend to freeze, decide now what you want to say. Practice it. So when the moment shows up, you're not scrambling, you're just delivering the line you already trust. A small gut check, an honest list, and a little bit of preparation. That's it. It's not complicated, but it's the difference between looking back and wincing or looking back and knowing that you showed up. So dream big, plan smart, live fully, and leave the regret behind. That is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. I love having you spend time with the podcast with me. It just makes me so excited. Check out the show notes at holisticproductivity.com/72. You can find all of those notes there. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. I drop new episodes every single week, and I don't want you to miss out on those. So like, follow, and subscribe. And if you enjoyed today's episode, if it made you think differently, I'd love to see a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. That's just the best way to help others find the show, and it means so much to me. You can follow on social media at Wholistic Productivity. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube, Substack. All of the social medias, find us there. Got a lot of great productivity tips and motivation throughout the week, so I don't want you to miss out on that. And then if you're looking for more, I'd love to have you join our online community for holistic productivity. It's free. Link will be in the show notes. It's just full of great people and a ton of resources. I'd love to have you be a part of it to help you stay motivated, accountable, and just moving forward in reaching your goals. Again, thank you so much for listening. I love having you be part of this community and this podcast. The reason that I do it should be no surprise by now, but it's to help you dream big, plan smart, and live fully. And I'm just so excited to have you do that. Can't wait to see what it results in because I know it's going to be amazing. So until next time, have a great week. We'll see you later. Take care.